Under the ancient Bodhi tree, Buddha rested, his serene presence calming the gentle breeze. Disciples gathered silently, their hearts yearning for wisdom from the enlightened one. Master, the disciple began, I feel weighed down by sorrow and responsibility. How can I find peace in this chaos? The Buddha paused, his serene gaze resting on the disciple. To find peace, you must first understand the nature of burdens. He bent down, picked up a small stone from the earth, and held it in his palm. This stone, the Buddha said, is light and easy to hold. Yet, in time, its weight will strain your arm. The disciple studied the stone and nodded, confused but willing to understand its significance. The Buddha turned and walked toward the stream, flowing near the monastery, beckoning the disciple to follow. Buddha continued, like this pebble, burdens seem light but grow heavy when endlessly carried. He placed the pebble back on the ground, releasing its weight. Its weight no longer burdens me. This is the lesson of release. But Master, the disciple replied, my burdens are tied to people I love. How can I simply let them go? The Buddha crouched beside the stream, dipping his hand into the flowing water, feeling its gentle rush. Other disciples listened intently, their breaths still and minds quieting. Ananda asked hesitantly, but how do I let go of my thoughts? Master? Buddha's expression remained serene, as gentle as the whispering leaves. Another disciple joined them, curious and eager to understand the words of wisdom flowing from the Master. Master, the second disciple said, how do I know when to let go and when to hold on? The Buddha picked up a handful of leaves from the ground and held them in his hand. These leaves, he said, serve their purpose until the wind claims them. To hold too long is to deny their cycle. The disciples reflected on the nature of burdens, the stone, and the leaves, seeking clarity in the teaching. Master, the first disciple asked, what if the burdens return, like the tide that rises again after it falls? The Buddha smiled, his expression calm as the stream, and gestured toward the rippling water beside them. The stream flows forward, he said, yet it does not hold onto the waves. Release allows us to move forward. The disciples looked at the stream, its relentless journey toward the vast ocean, and found wisdom in its movement. Release requires courage, the Buddha said, and trust in life's impermanence. To embrace this truth is to free your spirit. The disciples bowed deeply, feeling gratitude for the teachings and the clarity they brought to their troubled minds. The evening turned to night, stars appearing in the dark sky as the Buddha and disciples returned to the monastery. The lesson of the stream lingered in their hearts, guiding their thoughts toward release and acceptance in the days ahead. Each disciple began to reflect on their burdens, questioning the weight they carried and the strength needed to let go. The Buddha sat quietly under the Bodhi tree, his presence a beacon of peace for those seeking enlightenment. A third disciple approached, carrying a heavy jar filled with water, its weight evident in their strained posture. Master, the third disciple said, this jar weighs me down, yet I must carry it, for it holds the water of life. The Buddha gestured for the disciple to place the jar on the ground and rest their weary hands. Ananda's face lightened as understanding dawned in his troubled heart. The mud represents life's challenges, necessary for growth. We do not carry alone. The third disciple nodded, relieved by the wisdom and the clarity it brought to their struggle with the jar's weight. The Buddha addressed all three disciples, his voice steady and calm like the rhythm of the stream. Burdens exist, he said, not to weigh us down, but to teach us the art of release and trust. The disciples listened intently, their minds opening to the possibilities of living without attachment to burdens. To release, the Buddha continued, is to let life flow naturally, as the stream carries stones and leaves on its path. Ananda sat beside him, his thoughts no longer racing like a storm. the sacred pause. Ananda brings medicine for overwhelm. As dawn approached, the Buddha stood and walked toward the stream, the disciples following closely behind. The stream, he said, as a teacher, flowing forward without attachment, a reminder of life's impermanence and beauty. The disciples watched the stream, its gentle ripples glistening in the early morning light. Finding peace in its movement, the Buddha held a single flower in his hand, its petals delicate and vibrant against the light of the rising sun. This flower, he said, blooms for a time and fades. Its impermanence does not lessen its beauty, but enhances it. Another day, under the warm glow of the sun, Buddha led his disciples to the banks of a serene lake. The waters shimmered gently, undisturbed, reflecting the sky like a mirror of clarity and stillness. The Buddha walked ahead, his steps light and free, guiding his followers toward enlightenment and peace. Another day, another lesson awaited the disciples as they gathered near the Bodhi tree. Eager for the Buddha's wisdom, a restless disciple approached the Buddha, their thoughts scattered and their heart burdened by unresolved attachments and lingering fears. Master, the disciple began, I have tried to let go, yet my burdens return to me, like shadows in the night. The Buddha's gaze rested on the disciple, calm and gentle as the morning breeze drifting through the monastery gardens. To release is not merely to discard, the Buddha said. It is to transform burdens into lessons, not shackles. The Buddha walked to the fire pit, beckoning the disciple to follow. The flames flickering warmly against the morning light, he placed a bundle of dried twigs onto the fire, watching the flames consume them, leaving only ashes behind. Observe these twigs, the Buddha said. Their form is temporary, yet their essence persists in the ashes, carried by the wind. But Master, the disciple questioned, how do I transform my burdens when my thoughts resist? They return like unwelcome guests. The Buddha knelt beside the fire and traced patterns in the dirt with a stick, intricate swirls overlapping one another. Your mind is like this canvas, he said. Each thought leaves a mark. Release requires erasing and beginning anew. The Buddha swiped his hand across the patterns, smoothing the dirt until no trace of the marks remained. Meditation, the Buddha continued, is the act of smoothing your canvas, creating space for clarity, wisdom, and peace. Another disciple joined them, intrigued and ready to grasp the deeper meaning behind the lesson the Buddha shared. Master, the second disciple began, what if my attachments are tied to those I love? Would release mean forsaking them? The Buddha gestured toward a flowering tree nearby, its blossoms vibrant, yet fleeting against the vast sky above. This tree offers beauty to all, he said, yet it does not cling to its petals when the wind claims them. The disciples reflected on the transient nature of life and the possibility of honoring love without attachment's weight. A third disciple approached, holding a jar filled with water, its weight evident in their strained posture and weary stance. Master, the third disciple asked, I carry this jar of life-giving water, yet its weight oppresses me. How do I persist? The Buddha motioned for the disciple to place the jar on the ground, offering respite to their tired arms. The jar holds water, he said, but the burden is not its essence. Share its contents, and the weight lightens. The disciples pondered the meaning of sharing burdens, finding solace in the possibility of connection and shared strength. The Buddha addressed all three disciples, his voice steady and gentle like the stream's flow they had studied before. Burdens linger not because they must, he said, but because we allow them to define us. Resisting transformation. The disciples listened intently, their hearts opening to the idea of change, of release, and of lightness in being. The fire consumes the twigs, the Buddha said, and transforms them to ash. Such is the nature of releasing attachments. The disciples bowed, grateful for the wisdom imparted and determined to meditate and practice the art of transformation. The day grew warmer, but the lessons lingered in their minds, guiding their thoughts toward new ways of understanding. As evening approached, the disciples gathered near the stream, seeking further clarity in the teachings of release and renewal. The Buddha arrived, his steps light and deliberate, his presence calming like the soft rustle of leaves in the wind. He knelt beside the stream, dipping his hand into the flowing water, feeling its gentle, unceasing rhythm. "This stream flows," he said, "carrying away all it touches, leaving room for new waters to fill its path." The disciples studied the stream, recognizing its relentless journey and the truth in its ability to let go and renew. "But Master," one disciple asked, "what if I release only to find emptiness within me? How do I fill that void?" The Buddha smiled and held out his empty palm, revealing the infinite potential within the space it created. "Emptiness," he said, "is not a void, but a gift. It is room for compassion, wisdom, and peace to flourish." The disciples meditated on the Buddha's words, understanding that release did not leave emptiness, but created space for growth. The night deepened, stars scattered across the sky. As the disciples sat in quiet contemplation of the teachings received, each disciple began to practice meditation, smoothing their canvases and transforming their burdens into lessons, into lightness. The Buddha walked ahead, his steps serene, guiding his followers toward enlightenment and the art of becoming light. Another day, another sunrise painted the horizon. As the disciples gathered near the stream to learn from the Buddha, a disciple approached the Buddha, their heart filled with both doubt and longing for understanding beyond their grasp. "Master," the disciple began, "I have released my burdens, yet I still feel the weight of my own existence." The Buddha turned his serene gaze to the disciple, his presence calm and grounding like the earth beneath their feet. "To release burdens," the Buddha said, "is the first step. To become light, one must embrace the nature of emptiness." The Buddha knelt by the stream, cupping water in his hands, allowing it to flow through his fingers effortlessly. "Observe this water," he said. "It fills my hands yet escapes without resistance, flowing back into the stream's embrace." Another disciple joined them, carrying a delicate flower, its petals trembling in the soft breeze of the morning. "Master," the second disciple asked, "how does emptiness bring lightness?" "I fear emptiness as a void, a place of nothingness." The Buddha took the flower, gently holding it as he smiled, his expression full of compassion and profound understanding. "This flower blooms in the space between roots and sky," he said, "to rise above. We do not reject the mud but accept its vital purpose," Buddha added. Disciples listened intently, their minds opening to the profound interconnectedness of growth and struggle. The Buddha continued, "To be light is not to be hollow, but to embrace space where love, wisdom, and peace can dwell." A third disciple approached, carrying a small jar of honey, its golden contents glistening in the sunlight with alluring sweetness. "Master," the third disciple said, "this honey is full and sweet. How can emptiness compare to the richness it holds?" The Buddha opened the jar, allowing the fragrance to rise, then gently poured honey into another empty vessel before speaking. "This honey fills one vessel to nourish another," he said. "Emptiness allows space to share, to give, and to receive." The disciples reflected on the act of sharing and how emptiness could hold the potential for generosity and fulfillment. The Buddha addressed them all, his voice steady and warm, like the sun's gentle rays caressing the morning earth. "Emptiness is not absence," he said, "but infinite potential. To shed burdens is to create room for life's gifts." The disciples sat by the stream, their hearts open to the truth within the words, their thoughts turned toward inner space. The Buddha picked up a feather lying by the stream, its delicate form a testament to lightness and graceful balance. "This feather," he said, "rides the wind, not because it resists, but because it surrenders to the flow of life." The disciples studied the feather, imagining themselves as light and unburdened, able to ride the currents of life effortlessly. The morning sun cast its warmth upon the pond, illuminating the blossoms and accentuating the mud beneath. Disciples marveled at the balance of beauty and imperfection before them, a lesson unfolding in nature's simplicity. The day unfolded, and the disciples began to practice shedding judgments and fears, allowing space for peace to take root. The Buddha walked along the stream, his steps purposeful yet free, embodying the lightness he taught with each passing moment. A fourth disciple approached, carrying a small mirror, their reflection staring back at them with doubt and a search for truth. "Master," the fourth disciple said, "how can I embrace emptiness when I see myself so clearly? I feel bound to this self." The Buddha took the mirror, turning it toward the sky, letting it reflect the vastness of the clouds and open heavens. "This mirror shows what is before it," he said. "Turn it toward the infinite, and your reflection becomes part of all." The disciple bowed, realizing that the self was not a limitation but a gateway to the boundless nature of existence. As the day turned to dusk, the disciples gathered once more, the sky painted with hues of gold and crimson. The Buddha spoke to them, his words flowing like the stream, touching each heart with their profound simplicity and truth. "To shed burdens is to begin," he said. "To embrace emptiness is to grow. To become light is to awaken." The disciples meditated on his words, their hearts filled with a deep sense of peace and an understanding of infinite space. The Buddha smiled, his presence a beacon of wisdom, as his disciples began to understand the essence of becoming light. Thank you for watching. Buddha's teachings are always with you. Subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next video.